I've been defrauded before. I'll tell you my story. Let's get right into it. In January 2020, I lived in Accra. We wanted to do a tour in Europe. The two headlines were going to be Stonebwoy from Ghana and Naira Marley from Nigeria. My boss thought that it would be smart to buy an Instagram account. So we look at Instagram account of what we thought were just normal girls, but have huge following, like maybe 100,000 following. And we thought that, you know what, let's buy the account from the girls and convert it into our business account. So we can use their account to promote our event since they already have the following. And we DM one of the girls, she responded. It was like $100 to buy the account. I sent the money, and within an hour or two after sending the money, the girl blocked us and her account went private. We were catfished. I remember my boss said, the money involved is not that big. Let it go. This was in 2020. So the pandemic happened, so the tour didn't happen. And because of the money involved, we didn't report it to anybody. On June 13th, 2025, the FBI raided a criminal syndicate alleged in Accra, and they did this operation together with Interpol and Ghana police. And people were wondering why Ghana government allowed the FBI to come to Ghana and carry on that operation. I'll tell you why. Simple answer. It's because of the money involved. $100 million. That's big money. In 2009, MoneyGram noticed that a lot of fraudulent transactions were going to Nigeria. So MoneyGram started vetting agents and closing down agents in Nigeria. I have a friend who used to work as MoneyGram here in the US. And he told me that when that happened, the number of MoneyGram transactions in Nigeria went down, but they noticed that the number of MoneyGram transactions in Benin Republic, the country next to Nigeria, went up. So these fraudsters left Nigeria and started going to neighboring countries, including Benin, to do their transactions. And so I'm saying this to say, if you have been defrauding people for years and getting away with it, you think you are smart because you've not been caught. The only reason you've not been caught is because a lot of times these internet fraudsters in Accra and Nigeria and other West African countries, the money involved is so small that it will cost too much to arrest them. In majority of the cases, people don't even report it. The second time I was defrauded was actually I was catfished. So somewhere in August, September 2023, I had just broken up with my American girlfriend and I was going through a hard time. And I was at the pool. This pretty girl came to talk to me and we started talking. And around the same time I was talking to this pretty girl, a different girl followed me on Instagram. And I was like, you know what? Today is my lucky day. I'm single, going through a heartbreak. Pretty girl talking to me at the pool. Pretty girl trying to link with me on the internet. I felt like I was on top of the world because pretty girl were hollering at me. So the pretty girl on Instagram asked me to move to Snapchat with her. I'm like, yo, I'm super lucky today. I didn't even think anything about it. I just moved on Snapchat, right? Because if you are in the mind state where you think you are on top of the world, you are not making rational decisions. So I just moved to Snapchat to this girl. She started sending me nudes. And I started sending some. And then, after some time, she told me that she has my nudes. She's going to expose me, blah, 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 blah. Long story short. A few hours or two before I blocked her, I called my friend in Ghana who may or may not be involved in internet fraud that this is what happened to me. And my friend was like, yeah, just ignore her. If it's a her, she'll go away because wasting time with you will not make them money. So they're going to move on to somebody else, another victim. So I ignored. This was like over a year ago and nothing happened to me. But I was so scared. So if ever my nude leak online, you know why. But my point is the shame and the guilt involved in the second one. I was already feeling down because I was going through a heartbreak. People would think that I am a John boy. That is why I fell for a catfish. But I fell for a catfish because I was vulnerable. Which brings me to my next point. The reason why people fall for scams and fraud online is because of vulnerability. Scammers are not smarter than their victims. A lot of times, victims are in their most vulnerable state when scammers hit them. So scammers will send like random email to different people, and these emails or text message or whatever, if they send it to like 1,000 people, and 10 out of the 1,000 respond to them, and they're able to successfully defraud 2 out of the 1,000. They look like smart, but look at the math. From 1,000, you're able to get 2. That is 0.2% success rate. That's a low success rate in any other profession. So the math sometimes works to their benefit, because the more people you target, which is what they usually do, the more people you are likely to be successfully at getting, right? So that is what I wanted to point out. And when usually people are in their most vulnerable state and they fall for scams, it's hard for them to voice out about it. And so again, the vulnerability, and scammers get away with it because of the shame. So let's talk about how powerful shame is. And to talk about how powerful shame is, let me talk about this company called Ashley Madison. So Ashley Madison was a website that people were using to cheat. And there was a hack on Ashley Madison. Yes, I said Ashley Madison was a website that people were using to cheat on their wives and husbands. Ashley Madison website was hacked in 2015. And that hack revealed that there were 37 million people signed to this website for cheating purposes. And out of the 37 million people, only 5.5 million of them were women. So the math tells us that men cheat more than women. And out of the 5.5 million, only 12,000 of them were active. So very small number of women were responding to men on this website. So these men were just on this website with the hope of cheating, but there is no record that these men actually cheated. It is believed that a lot of these men who were on Ashley Madison were there for the fantasy of cheating. So when this hack happened in 2015, some of these men took their lives. Yes. The shame of being exposed as somebody who could potentially cheat on your wife led to some of these men taking their own life. One of them was a police captain in San Antonio. The other was a pastor in New Orleans, right? So people took their life just because they didn't want to face the shame of being exposed as potential cheats. So the shame and guilt involved in being a victim of fraud is why fraudsters get away with defrauding people. Nobody wants to come to the world and admit that I was gullible or naive enough to fall for a fraud. But the truth is, sometimes we were just vulnerable enough to fall for a fraud. I'm talking about this in relation to romance fraud. With other forms of fraud like inheritance fraud and the rest, that one, greed and other emotions are involved. And again, the shame of admitting to the world that you were a greedy person is why people don't come forward. So fraudsters, again, are not smarter than the rest of the world. Their victims are just riddled with emotions. I brought up Ashley Madison to highlight shame and how powerful shame and guilt are in silencing victims. Nobody wants to admit to the world that they are victims, so they keep quiet when they fall victim to crimes. But there's something interesting about Ashley Madison that I observed when I was doing this research. The Ashley Madison hack happened in 2015. OnlyFans, an adult content website, started in 2016. And here's my theory. The Ashley Madison hack revealed that there was a market for men who are willing to indulge in the fantasy of cheating or the fantasy of looking at a woman. Because, like I said, there is no record of these men actually meeting the women. And for want of a better word, an enterprising businessman said, you know what? If men are willing to engage in the fantasy of being with a woman, we can create a website where these men can indulge in that fantasy. So OnlyFans met the need of the men who want to indulge in the fantasy of cheating and met the need of the women who want to provide that fantasy and be paid for it, right? So what's the moral of this story? In every misfortune, there is some money to be made. In every crisis, there's an opportunity to level up. So if you apply this mentality to positive businesses, yeah, you can level up. You feel me? People who usually go into fraud are people who don't believe in themselves. People who don't believe they have the ability to win in life without resorting to that. But if you have the ability, the energy, and the time to send thousands of emails or DMs, hoping two people will respond, you can apply this same level of desperation to some other legit business. Just like fraud doesn't guarantee you money, no business guarantees you money. So take the risk. You might, make something out of it. I wanted to use the FBI raid in Accra as an opportunity to share these personal stories, be vulnerable with you, and also let you understand how and why victims of fraud keep falling victims and don't come forward about it. My name is Nanebi Tony, do or da. If you vibe with my vibe, subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you think. Level up.